Hi, this is Paul Fricker. Today I'm going to be looking at how to create characters or investigators in Call of Cthulhu. This time I'm specifically going to be looking at the optional rules. I'd recommend you watch part 1 of this series, Creating Investigators for Call of Cthulhu, before you watch this one of optional rules. Also, if you're new to Call of Cthulhu, I would recommend you look up the Quick Start rules, and I've done a series of 5 videos to accompany those. Before I get into it, a comment about how the rule chapters in the Keeper Rulebook are structured. Okay, so in each rule chapter, you get the first section, the main section of the chapter, are the kind of core rules. That's the part that you're going to use for running your game. At the end of each rules chapter, there are some optional rules. Now these are kind of like a little bit of toolbox stuff that you can totally ignore it. Or if you want to adjust your game, you can take a look at those and maybe incorporate some of them. They are optional, that's the point. Option 1, start over. So use the standard rules, create your investigator's characteristics, take a look at them. If they're rubbish, if you've got 3 characteristics that are under 50, wipe the whole lot out, start over. Option 2, modifying low rolls. Again, using the standard rules, create your characteristics. If 3 of them are low, and by low we mean like under 50, take a d6, roll it, multiply it by 5, and share those points out among your low characteristics. If that bumps them up above the 50 value, at least you haven't got 3 below 50, then that's pushed you up into what you might feel is more acceptable. Option 3, choosing where to place rolled characteristics. Well, you've generated your 8 characteristics and they're fine, but you're not really happy with where they are. Your guy is like really strong, but actually you wanted somebody who's really clever. So why not juggle them around? This does present us with one possible complication. Not all the characteristics are generated in the same way. Some are done with 3d6 times 5, and some are done with 2d6 plus 6 times 5. So 3 of the characteristics tend towards higher values, and those 3 are intelligence, size, and education. Once you start juggling them around, you may find that one of those 3 ends up lower than it should. So the suggested minimum value for those 3 would be 40 points. Now, I'm not going to necessarily stick to that with size, because just take a look at, if you watch Game of Thrones, think of Tyrion Lannister. He's not so big, but he's a really important character. Option 4, point by characteristics. One of the things that came up during the playtest feedback from quite a lot of people was that they felt the old 3d6 method of generating characteristics was kind of, just that, old and outdated, outmoded. So what they were looking for was a point-by system. So we give you one in this option number 4. So you scrap the dice, you take 460 points, and you share them out amongst your characteristics as you see fit, with a minimum value of 15 and a maximum value of 90 on any single characteristic. As I said for option 3, there is also the recommended minimum of 40 points for intelligence and education. Option 5, the quickfire method. Okay, now I've explained this quickfire method in a previous video that I did for the quick start rules. It's basically we took that method and put it into the quick start rules because it is so much simpler. Option 6, reaching the heights of human potential. Well, now we've made characteristics into a percentage value, it seemed a bit, disappointing that they end at 90. So if you want them to go higher, this is a little option that allows you to do that. So with this 6th option, you simply take 1d10, and after you've rolled all your other characteristics, you roll that 1d10 and add those points wherever you want to your characteristics. So if you've got a characteristic at 90 and you roll a 9, you could end up with a characteristic that reaches 99, which is the highest level that a characteristic can be for a normal average, well, not average, but for a normal human being. Option 7. A cap on starting skill values. This is another thing that came up during the playtest feedback. There was quite a demand for a cap on starting skill values, but is it necessary? Up to you, so we've made it an option. So if you want to include this in your game, we've suggested a starting cap of 75. So when the players make their character, that's the highest level they can set any one single skill. That's it for the optional rules, but it occurs to me that last time in the previous episode, I didn't talk about the fillable PDF. Now, this is a great asset. It was designed by Dean Engelhardt, and it's a great looking character sheet. There's multiple versions of it. They're fillable PDFs, and they do some of the legwork for you. So it does stuff like putting in the half and fifth values. It calculates the hit points, the sanity starting value, stuff like that. So it fills some of the sheet in for you. It won't function fully in all PDF readers, but if you're using Adobe Reader, which you can download for free, just the free version of it, then it works great in that. In the previous video, I promised I'd come back and look at the age rules for starting characters. In a nutshell, they're there to reflect some kind of physical deterioration of the person alongside an increase in knowledge. The older your investigator is when they begin the game, the more education improvement checks you should make. Hand in hand with that, you also see a physical decline. So you have to take an increasing number of points away from the physical characteristics of strength, constitution, and dexterity. And also some points away from appearance. This isn't to say that all people over 40 are really clever, but, really ugly. I'm not saying anything, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, so one final thing. I'm one of the hosts of a podcast called The Good Friends of Jackson Elias. The other hosts are Scott Dorward, who edited the 7th edition rulebook, and Matthew Sanderson, who wrote Amidst the Ancient Trees, one of the scenarios in the core rulebook. So I just wanted to highlight a few of our back episodes that might be of interest to those of you who've watched this video all this way through. So going back in the midst of time, we've got episode 2, and that's one whereby we look at how to generate investigators for Call of Cthulhu. One footnote here, that was recorded in a garden shed with the three of us kind of huddled around an old microphone. Now, it's not such great audio quality, but hopefully, it says something of interest. More recently, in episode 73, we looked at all the changes that are in 7th edition Call of Cthulhu. In episodes 78 and 79, we had Mike Mason join us. If you don't know, he's the line editor for the Call of Cthulhu publication range. Myself and Mike wrote the 7th edition rulebook, and we go over all the kind of inspiration, the process, how long it took, how we went about it, the whole design process within those 2 episodes. Well, I guess that's all for today. I'm going to try and get these out roughly fortnightly, alternating with the podcast. And next time we'll be looking at skills and the rules associated with them.
BlasphemousTomes.com